Hello and welcome everyone. Did you ever want to mix a vocal performance and you wanted to add a really strong and bright and unnatural reverb? You know, just so that it really fills the whole space. It doesn't matter if it's natural, it only matters that it really punches through the mix. But then you were unhappy with it because, you know, you didn't expect it to sound natural, but you also didn't expect the sibilance to get in the way, but it sorta did. So now you wanna find a way to make it super bright and strong, but also more tonal. And this is what I did in this track. So listen now. Let's listen to this more closely, and specifically to the reverb layer of this vocal chain. And I will turn on and off the tonal button that I prepared for this video. So as you can hear, both reverb sounds are bright, but only when I have enabled the tonal button I got a sound that didn't put the harsh sibilance into the foreground. And now I will show you what the tonal button even does. It is a bitwig modulator that dials in the dry width mix on these two plugins, Spiff and Pro C2. But just so you know, for the technique that I'm going to show you, you neither need Spiff nor Pro C2 and don't even need bitwig or its modulators. Let's turn off the saturator, the reverb and Pro C2 for a while and only listen to what Spiff does to the vocal track. Spiff has a nice feature where you can click on delta and then you only listen to the difference between the dry and the wet signal. This is basically a null test. Now you can hear that Spiff does a great job isolating the consonants from the rest of the vocals. I dialed in the depth as far as I can be, which is 10, whatever that means, and I put Spiff into cut mode, of course, otherwise I would boost the consonants. Dialed in a little bit of decay, a lot of sensitivity so that it reacts to a lot of these transients in the vocals, and I dialed in a little bit of the decay LFHF, which makes it have more decay on the transients that are found in the high end. Since this is a spectral transient shaper, it works better for these kind of things than a normal transient shaper because it can react individually to different transients in the spectrum. That makes a lot of sense because some stuff like k or t or d or s or sh can be in a lot of different places in the spectrum, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint these with other tools than spectral tools like this. So that's already a good start. And then on top of that I have Pro C2, which is just a normal compressor, as most of you probably know. And what I did here was I let the sidechain equalizer only react to the part of the vocal track that has the s in it. Then I dialed down the threshold a lot of ratios so that it just rigorously cuts it off. And then just a bit of attack and a lot of Lookahead so that it already removes the transient before it comes. And then dial back the body with short release so that we have a lot of this tonal energy. And it sounds like this. You search for trouble. You are stuck in the hate bubble. Instagram and Facebook. But as you can hear, it doesn't really react to g or k or t or anything like that. And that's why it's nice that we actually have Spiff in front as well. So now let's listen to both of them together. You search for trouble. You are stuck in the hate bubble. And now we can send that through our reverb of choice, which in this case is just Raum. So you get a pretty bright sound with Raum if you just turn off the high cut and don't dial in too much damping and use a low size setting, which I did here. It could sound even brighter if I turned off the density parameter, but I like the sound more of density. One of the reasons why you might want to have a smooth and tonal bright reverb is because you might want to post-saturate the reverb output, especially in the high end, and that just goes way harder when there is not a lot of transient energy in the way. So let's compare the reverb sound with or without tonal, while also checking out what the saturator does to the reverb. So as you can hear, it's just a much nicer sound. It still has a lot of strength and consistency, just like you would expect from a saturated reverb. And then the vocals can really shine. And it's also nicer when you're mixing it with a dry vocal, because then the dry vocal that still has the transient energy fully in there can then let them poke out much more than as if the reverb would also put emphasis on them. I mean, check this out, there is so much going on. There are even 2 other layers in here that also do some kind of crazy stuff, which is also kind of reverby. And still, the dry signal can kind of fight its way through all that fuzz. There you have it. You can just have the dry signal in the center of a lot of different layers that all have something to do with reverb, and still have the consonants punch through clearly while preserving the overall strength of the tonal energy of the vocals. And yeah, and this technique really contributes to that. Like and subscribe and everything. See you next time.